What we're talking about today is how do we have impact? How do we make a difference when it really matters? How do we influence and shape the social landscape in such a way that things are really working for you in spite of what's going on? All right. So, uh, we all have stories about what it's like when things aren't working. I'd like you to visualize those moments when the opposite is happening. Why is it that people are listening to you? Why is it that you and them are able to collaborate in spite of some of our differences? Why is it that there are certain gifts and skills that are coming out of the group that is more naturally able to help us all move forward so that we create a 1 + 1 = 3 versus a 1 + 1 = -1 kind of experience. So I'm going to share with you a story about back in the day when I was working as a Prudential insurance salesman. This was way back before there were computers. And you literally had to knock on front doors. Okay, this is before there was the internet, before there were apps. So this was all very manual. And it really depended on how you could create new and different conditions. The job in those days was to try to harness enough interest, goodwill, and emerging trust for them to invite you into their homes, into their kitchen tables, where 90% of all insurance policies were written and signed on the kitchen table. Now, when I was hired, I was only a year out of college. I was 22. And I remember my first day showing up, there were a number of other new hires. They didn't look like me. There were 35 to 50. In fact, I was told later that I was an experiment. They had never hired anyone under 30. So there was a whole bunch of what I was looking at as gray hairs that were there. We got into customer role playing rather quickly. And initially, when I saw the hiring manager, who was also my training manager, do some back and forth in the role play with a seasoned insurance agent, it looked very easy. In fact, it was kind of fun. It was engaging, and we gave some feedback to them about what we thought we were viewing. And then it was our turn. So at this first of 4 stages of levels of mastery, it's what I call the unconscious incompetent, or the I don't know what I don't know stage. It's actually a state of bliss where things look easy. Okay, that's the Dunning-Keurig effect, where people with lower ability actually overestimate their capability. So if you're trying to have impact, one of the things you want to do is not only be situationally aware, and that is really looking at things from a me, from a we, and from a us perspective, thinking, what are people thinking, feeling, and doing? What's common and what's not amongst us? What's working and what's not working? All of which is part of the situational awareness. But you also want to look at the 4 levels of mastery so you can close the knowing-doing gap. So here I was, not knowing I was the unconscious incompetent, jumping into a role play scenario, and suddenly going from, oh, this is easy, to really struggling. I was hedging, and I was kind of embarrassed, and I was getting shaky. This was the second level of mastery, which is called the conscious incompetent, because I started to realize this is not working out, this is not so easy. Um, this is also technically what I would call the "aw shit" phase. Okay, when you're at the conscious and competent and you now know what you don't know. Okay, now you stick with this, and I was getting a lot of feedback about not just parroting features and benefits about a product, but spending far more time, of course, in the conversation, asking questions, open and closed questions. Tell me more. Why are you thinking about it this way? Would you be open to hearing about a different way of looking at this, and so on? So, from this coaching, I was able to get uh, improve my performance, my impact. This third level is called the unconscious competent. So I was getting better. But when they asked me what, in fact, was the difference between now, after the feedback and coaching that I was getting, and previous to that, when I just jumped into it, and they realized I didn't know why I was getting better. I couldn't tell them that, in fact, I was addressing some of the resistance. I was focusing far more on them than on my company's product knowledge. That, in fact, I was summarizing and restating some of their issues that they had. That I was signaling to them that they were important enough that I really wanted to listen, and in fact, I dare say, care about them. So at this level, things started to work better, but it was only when I got to the fourth level, the conscious competent, the knowing what I know, when they could ask me now, what's the difference between how you're performing, how you're engaging in the conversation versus before, that I could tell them that, well, I'm actually spending a lot more time listening and a lot more time trying to be with them rather than against them and sorting through how we can create a new and different outcome. So these four levels of mastery, from the unconscious incompetent, I don't know what I don't know, to the second level of the conscious incompetent, now I know what I don't know, the kind of "aw shit" phase, to the third level, which is the unconscious competent. I'm getting better, but I still really don't have for real a firm grip on action, on skills, on knowledge, on empathic perspectives that will help to see me through the difficult times. And then finally, the fourth level, the conscious competent. So those four levels were really important in addressing the knowing doing gap, as well as the situational awareness, which was really all about looking at me, we, us in real time. What are we thinking? What are we feeling? What are we doing? What's common? What's not? What's working? What's not working? And to be able to solicit, after we create some kind of a connection and create an emotionally safe environment where we're trying to reach out and create a place for us to be together. And by putting those things together, the situational awareness, the four levels of mastery, and then moving to the P part of the AMP model. So from awareness to mastery to purpose, passion, and presence, uh, all together really makes a difference. Well, what is it about purpose that we should keep in mind? You know, purpose provides a roadmap for us, you know, knowing where we're going. That is sometimes easier said than done. It's sometimes underwhelmed, overstated. But in fact, when you think about those times in your life when you're really deeply committed to doing something, you're on fire, that kind of purpose can make a difference. In fact, with that often comes passion. We get into a flow state where we're excited. And it just really means something that is beyond what we ordinarily do, beyond who we usually are. And with that, people experience us in a new and different way. That presence where people want to be around us because of how we're projecting, me, we, us, togetherness kind of spirit. So what I would say in sum, if you want to make a difference, be aware of what your 360 environment is like, inside, outside, forward and backwards, common and what's not common, what's working, what isn't. Make sure that you're really working at what do I need to do differently? So looking at those 4 levels of mastery and being aware of how much purpose have I crafted, being honest about what is the road that I'm traveling? What do I need to change to stay on track, to not get off the rails? And having passion, having some fun with this. And with that will come the presence, the spirit that says, you too, we can join this together. So I would say, try it out. Picture yourself tomorrow using AMP, awareness, mastery, purpose, passion, presence. Map it out. When am I going to do this? How is this going to look? What are some things that will be better? The more we practice at getting better, the more we'll have impact. I wish you well with this. Thank you, and have a great day. I'm Mark Sullivan with the Performance Learning Academy. Thank you.